Today on Truth Be Trolled, the real-life Nightcrawler.
We should probably all go into witness protection.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks to
Listen,
Tom.
I got to get there before you guys do, for sure.
Come and take a ride.
Tom is the Valley Patriot, essentially. He's a, I would say, a Merrimack Valley crusader. Loved and hated across the board.
I'm much more comfortable with being hated, quite frankly.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how to handle the compliments when they come in, as rare as that is.
Yeah, no, it's easier to grow your platform when they hate you because all the jackasses are doing is promoting for you.
Listen, I can talk about anything, whatever you want to do.
From the top news down to your librarian, everything's just fraud.
Yes. Now you're in my wheelhouse.
You guys see Instagram reels of people doing this. He's one of those guys, you know.
I'm kind of like the local Nick Shirley. He's kind of stealing my thunder over in Minnesota, but I've been kind of doing this now for 40 years at the local level. And quite frankly, getting publicity for it is not always a good thing. Like what he's doing right now. In fact, just today, about an hour ago before we got in here, Muckraker on Twitter dropped a huge fraud investigation about Lawrence, EBT fraud in Lawrence. Thank God he blacked his face out, because the one question, he's on the right track, right? And this is a very dangerous business when you're going after corruption, because there's a lot of dangerous people that do it. And I watched the video. It's on Twitter. It's probably about maybe 5 minutes long. And basically the gist of his investigation, what he found was, and what we've always known about Lawrence, is that millions of dollars in EBT fraud, where people sign up for EBT benefits, they purchase goods at local stores with the EBT. It gets put into barrels, shipped to the Dominican Republic, and sold by the cartels for money to fund the illegalities. And that was the one question he didn't ask was, who's doing this, right? So he did this big investigation about what's going on, but never talked about who's doing it. And I suspect that he did that because once you begin to talk about who's doing it, you very quickly will just disappear. Like, this is pretty serious business. You're talking about drug cartels that are making billions of dollars a year doing this kind of stuff to fund their transactions, whether it's importing guns, drugs, people, sex trafficking. And when you're in the hub of that, and you live in the hub of that, and you're in that swamp every day, you recognize it. You also recognize who's doing it, but you also recognize the people who disappear and why. And we've had an awful lot of that going on the last 5 or 10 years in the Lawrence area.
Do you think that it also involves higher up politicians getting a cut sometimes?
Yes. Well, I mean, indirectly, yes. Well, I mean, the way they've been able to do it, you've heard about the drug dealers that will work as a team. So one guy will have the drugs, another guy will, the guy with the drugs will tell the guy with the money, go put the money over under a rock. They give him the drugs. A different person goes to pick the money up. So the money and the drugs are never handled by the same person. The money and the drugs are never in the same place. So it's harder for law enforcement to do that. So now take that model and expand it state and New England wide, right? And so that's how the fraud works. The fraud works exactly the same way. You've got the politicians who are generally helping behind the scenes, who are doing things like pumping more EBT into Lawrence, who are doing things like cutting investigations that are going on in Lawrence so that the cartels can be more powerful and they can do more of their own shit. And the people who are on the ground, generally the cops and the local politicians are pretty oblivious to it. When you talk to them, they think this is movie stuff. They're living inside that bubble of that CNN bubble of everything's legit, everything's on the up and up. And
it's that's holding the society together right now.
100%, yeah.
No, keep going. I mean, if you want to, holy shit.
So I mean, it's a dangerous. I've been threatened. I'm concealed carry. I've been threatened on multiple occasions. In fact, it's the dumbest thing in the world, right? But it just goes to. I'm going to tell you a really quick story that's going to frighten you. So I was out one night. It was about 6 years ago, and I have a police scanner, and I go to the shootings, the fires, whatever's going on. And it was a really slow night. It was a Wednesday night, and I heard a trespass call going on over to public housing. So I pull up. I'm live on Facebook. I got my camera with me. I'm snapping pictures. All the cops know me because my dad was a cop. My uncle was a cop. I pull up. I can hear yelling inside the building. They pull out this young guy. He's probably 19 years old, and he's yelling and screaming, and he's handcuffed. And he sees me, and he sees me with my camera. So he looks at my camera, and he's he knows I'm the press. People know who I am in Lawrence. I'm pretty well known. And he's like, you're that Duggan guy. And he starts in the camera, they're harassing me. This is bullshit. These cops, I have a right to be here. They can't trespass me, blah, 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 blah. So I don't think anything of it. I go about my night. I go to a fire. I go to an accident. I go home. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I look on Facebook. I'm not going to say the name of the gang, but there's a gang in Lawrence that controls all the drugs. There's 3 gangs in Lawrence, but one is in charge, okay? The one that's in charge, 4 of their members, I guess you'd call them lieutenants, captains, however the hierarchy works, came on my Facebook page using their real names, using their real accounts, and they published one at a time, post after post, my entire schedule for the week. My daughter lives at this address in Manchester, New Hampshire. His parents live at this address on Mount Vernon Street in Lawrence. He goes to the post office at 11:30 every morning. He drives a red Jeep. Here's the plate number. He goes to Salvatore's for dinner every Monday night at 5. And they had my entire fucking schedule for the last 6 months. All of my habits, all the things that I did, all the things I'd never even thought of. Like, I don't write them down. These are just things that you do every day, right? Like every Wednesday you go out and you meet your friend for dinner or whatever. They had the whole thing. The police chief in North Andover, Chuck Gray, called me and he said, Tom, I'm looking at your Facebook page. I said, yeah, I just saw it. He said, you're not concealed carry. I just looked up. I figured, yeah, it's Tom Duggan. Of course he's concealed carry. He's in Lawrence all the time. He said, you're not concealed carry. I just checked. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, well, you need to come down here and you do apply. I'm going to try and fast track it if I can. And I got a friend at the State Police Drug Task Force that you need to talk to. So I talked to a couple guys at the State Police. I'm not going to tell you how they resolved it, but they did. The 4 individuals that were the main posters on my page were deported for other reasons. They did investigations and caught them doing other stuff. They had done surveillance on their phones and caught them on other things and deported them. But had they not threatened me publicly like that, nobody would have even known who they were. But one of the guys that was like, he's doing the hand signs and post his picture on my page, standing in front of his house with the address in the front. You know how some homes have like a plaque in the front that says 15 Smith Street? He's standing in front of the address plaque in front of his own house in Lawrence just to let everybody know he doesn't fucking care that you know who he is, that he's threatening you. That's the level of people that you deal with when you're dealing with this kind of corruption. Now, that was for a guy that was trespassing. It turns out that guy that I videotaped was like the head guy of that cartel in Lawrence. He was like the head guy from the Dominican Republic. And he initially thought that like I was just some kind of like local person. I thought he recognized who I was. So I'm just used to that because people know who I am. Turns out he thought I was just some person filming the cops to make sure the cops weren't like doing something bad like all these YouTubers. And when they found out that I was actually a reporter and that I had posted it and I was live on Facebook, they fucking lost their minds. So I ended up getting my concealed carry permit, and I've had, a couple of other closer calls. I've been shot at a couple of times. I've had right in front of cops, had people like come over and assault me and threaten me. But for the most part, most of the criminals know that I'm not there to fuck them up. I'm not there to hurt them. I'm just there to get whatever the story is. And I'm not looking into your background or your family or what, I'm not the FBI. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not interested in doing any of that. I just want the story. If the cops are arrested, I'm going to write about it. And if they're not, I don't care.
Whew. Yeah, man. No wonder you have no time for ghosts or aliens or anything.
Fuck aliens and ghosts. He's out there dodging bullets.
Right. Well, I got shot at one night. It was weird because so it was after I got my gun permit, right? And I'd gotten used to it, and I'd shot it, and it's not like in the movies. In the movies, you hear the gunshot, and then you hear a ping, ping, like all this echo. And I don't know if any of you shoot, but when you shoot, that's not the sound you hear in real life when somebody shoots a gun. It sounds like a firecracker. Like it sounds like a muffled firecracker when somebody shoots, unless you're like in a place where it's going to echo crazy, like in a parking lot somewhere. So I'm riding around with my scanner. I hear that there's shots fired behind Central Catholic in Lawrence over on Fairmont Street. I'm closer than the cops are. The cops radioing that they're on Essex Street. I know that they're at least 8 blocks behind me. I get there first. 3 guys with, I'm not going to say automatic weapons, but certainly semi-automatic weapons come running out of the house into a car. They jump in their car. They leave. They see me, but I don't think they saw me, but I think they saw that there was somebody pulling up when they left. So I wait for the cops. The cops get there. They put down the markers, the triangle things that they put over the shell casings. And I get out and I'm live on Facebook and I'm taking pictures and I'm talking to the cops about how many shots fired. Apparently they did a drive-by for this house. It's on a corner. And I get back in my car and I'm uploading the pictures that I taken with my second phone, and I'm uploading everything on Facebook while I'm still live. And I'm looking down at my phone and I look across the street, and underneath the car across the street there's a shell casing that the cops missed. So I get out of my car to go tell the cops that they missed one, that there's a shell casing underneath. And as I get out of my car, I realize the cops have left. They got another call. I had turned my scanner down to get out and take pictures. Now I'm all by myself behind Central Catholic, and the people inside the house start shooting at me. And I didn't realize they were shooting at me because I was expecting in my head what we all see in the movies, for the gunshot to have that ping with the echo in it, and it just sounded like muffled firecrackers. But I felt like a pain in the back of my neck. I was standing in front of a brick wall, and the bullets had hit the brick wall behind me and shattered the brick behind me. Pieces of the brick came flying out to the back of my neck. And I looked up and I saw the guy with the gun. I jumped in my car, and I never fucking drove so fast in my fucking life. But I'm not doing anything, right? I'm not taking pictures of suspects. I'm not really in a dangerous position. I'm taking pictures of shell casings. The cops are there. I didn't get out of my car till they showed up. But still being there, having a camera, having a video, being in a... To come to find out, the house that I was at the corner of Fairmont Street is what they call a baby mama house. So you have a lot of people who are involved with the drug cartels who have 5 baby mamas, but they're making tons of money because they're selling drugs. So they buy a house, they buy it outright, they don't get a mortgage, they buy it outright, and they put baby mama number 1 on the first floor, and baby mama number 2 and 3 on the second floor, and baby mama number 3 on the third floor. But when the rival gang finds out where the baby mama house is, that's the house they go to shoot up. I had no idea about any of this stuff. I'm just a fucking reporter. I'm just out there trying to get crime stories. I just want to take pictures of cops arresting people and tell everybody why. That's all I want to do. I'm not looking to get anybody screwed. I'm not looking to, I'm not the cops. And I have to always, when I started this, I used to tell people all the time, like, listen, I'm not the cops. I don't give a shit. People would call and say, I got a guy across the street dealing drugs. I'm like, call 911. Don't call me. My job is to tell the story. Once you call 911, the cops show up and they start arresting people. Now it's a public issue. Now it's my job.
Well, what does it say to the community if it is your job? Like, people look to you and call to you for this. It's kind of bananas, to be honest.
The big problem that you have in any community, we're in Waltham right now, right?
Yeah.
Waltham's a pretty big community. The problem that you have in Lawrence, Haverhill, Lowell is that you have... Man, and I hate to say it out loud because I'm so pro-cop, but you've got guys on the department that get on the department who are connected to the cartels, whose sole purpose is to get information for the cartels, and they're working the job every day, but they're also hearing over the radio what raids are coming up, and they know who's going in the door and who's going in the front door and who's going in the back door and what day they're going and what time they're going and who they're looking for. And so when you've got that situation, the last 4 shootings that I went to, the last 4 raids that I went to, in fact, one was a nice raid, I got tipped off by state police. And the first thing the guy called me from the task force, the guy that called me and said, we're going to 4 o'clock in the morning, be at this address, be across the street. Don't let anybody know that you're there or why you're there, but get like half a block away if you can zoom in and do it. And the very first thing he said before he told me all that was, I'm going to tell you something. I want to help you out. I want to give you a good story. Do not tell any of Lawrence cop friends. First thing they said, do not tell any of Lawrence cop friends. So I'm out there. I go live as the raid's happening. And I got Lawrence cop friends texting me going, well, where the fuck are you? We didn't know these guys were in Lawrence tonight. And I didn't have the heart to tell them, yeah, that was kind of the point. Like, I don't know that you're corrupt, you're not corrupt. All these guys are my friends. I'm friendly with all of them. I don't want to know which one of them's are corrupt. But for sure, there are guys on every department in every major city who are working for the criminals. And when you're the guy that reports on this stuff, you put yourself in jeopardy because you never know. Even the guy wearing the badge that's showing up at a crime scene could be the guy on the other side. And you don't want to run afoul of any of those guys. So you got to walk a really fine line when you're the guy telling the stories, I guess my point.
Yeah, fucking clearly.
Is it fucking worth it?
Well, I don't make any money on what I do, so I've been kind of semi-retired for the last 15 years. I pay myself like a $30,000 salary. My kids are out of school. I have no mortgage. I don't pay college anymore. My car's paid off. I do it for fun. I do it because I love it. And most of what I cover is political corruption. Not I do the spot news on the street. Someone gets arrested. But I'm not looking to take down a cartel. I'm not looking to go up against, multi-million-dollar fraudsters, because those are the people that can disappear people. And my job is to just tell the story, just to tell the news. What's going on today? What's going on in our community? What's going on in our neighborhood? People deserve to know that.
Yeah, that's pretty close to that shit, though. You know what I mean? Like you're in more danger than I am.
Yeah,
because I'm not. You know what I mean? Like you're peeking into their window.
Yeah.
So,
but you got to walk a fine line, and I think even like the criminals at this point kind of respect what I do. It's kind of weird to say that, but it's true. There are. I have had occasion where a drug cartel guy will flag me down. So you're that Duggan guy. Turn your camera off. Come over here for a minute, and then give me information about a rival drug cartel and the drugs that they're selling and where they're selling them, thinking that I'm going to pass it up the chain to the cops, which I will never do, right? Because that's not my job. I don't want to be involved in that. That gets you in trouble really quick on the streets of a place like Lawrence or Waltham or Haverhill or Lowell, right? But it's interesting that they feel comfortable enough to do that. And I think sometimes they test me when they do that, and so I just I walk a fine line. I run a monthly publication. It's a physical newspaper. I do daily news online. I'm only interested in what's news. I'm not interested in affecting the news. I'm interested in reporting the news, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, too bad there weren't more journalists like that.
Yeah, if you were in Washington right now, you'd be fucking gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with corporate politics is the people who run the corporate media is the people who run corporate media. They already know what the corruption is because they're part of it. So they steer their reporters away from those stories. And when their reporters start stumbling onto that kind of stuff, they either move them in a different direction, or they fire them, or they make excuses for it, or they tip off the people that are being investigated. So if you're working for CNN, if you're working for the Boston Globe, you've got no chance at all of uncovering what that guy on Twitter uncovered today in Lawrence, or what I've uncovered with some of the political corruption in Lawrence and Missouri.
Constantly behind those people.
Yeah.
And don't tell me Don Lemon is a good person.
No, he's not. No, by the way, none of those people at that level, even the ones that you think are good, are not good. Like,
let me ask you this: name a single organization, group, business, anything that is worth millions of dollars that isn't corrupt.
Oh,
name one.
Wow.
You couldn't even say like football or sports.
Yeah, no. Well, I came to the conclusion a long time. Again, I grew up in a cop household. I came to the conclusion a long time that everything is fake.
It is.
Like, if you think about, the reality TV shows that you watch, the Kardashians, then those cameras aren't following the Kardashians around for their daily life. They're acting out things that had previously happened. And if you look at the disclaimer at the end of the show, it goes by really fast. They tell you that, right? But when you're watching, if you're the average person, you think it's real. For Christ's sake, Willie Nelson's in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Everything is fake. Professional sports is fake. Just about everything you see on the news is. And when I say fake, they take parts of the truth, but the way they present it is fake to get you to believe a conclusion that's not real.
Perception is
right.
Yeah, so you're in the right room now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because my fun is political politics, but I kind of dabble in everything. Because when I started this business, there was 4 of us, and now there's only 1 of me. So now I do everything.
What happened to the other 3?
So I started the business with my girlfriend. She was a lawyer at the time, so she ran the business of the newspaper, like invoicing and advertising. I was the journalist. I like to write the stories, take the pictures, interview people, drive around, go into shootings and stuff. We had 2 other backers. One was
what do you do for fun?
This is what I do for fun.
I drive around.
You're an adrenaline junkie, bro.
Yeah, did you ever see Nightcrawler? Sorry to.
I did. It's fascinating because I'm like, if they ever made a movie about my life after I die, it would probably be something very close to that.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah,
fuck that. I like rock and roll shit where everybody keeps their guns at home.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I pretty much do everything, right? So I'm doing all the serious shit that we just talked about. But then, like, I got friends like, Mark and you guys that do Prospect Hill, and then I'll come to like a concert, or if you guys, I remember I was there when they were recording Impact, right? And just kind of interviewing the guys and Adam and Mark and all those guys, and then writing stories, having them on the podcast, which brings in a whole different audience for me because my usual audience is politics, right? But I'm also doing stuff like that, which brings in a different audience who then stay because they live local. And they hear me talking about this other stuff that's going on in their community of Haverhill, Drake, Lawrence, North Andover. So our reach expands exponentially. I do food reviews, I do book reviews, I do all kinds of stuff to try and diversify my audience, the people who are following us, the people that are consuming the media that we're putting out. And that helps in a lot of ways when I'm doing investigations, when I'm doing a political corruption story, because you have people outside the industry you can talk to that know shit. You know, the one thing that I know for sure is that I don't know everything, but I know someone who does. Like, no matter what question you ask, I know someone that has the answer to that question that I can call and say, hey, I don't know anything about producing records, but I got a friend who says that there's corruption going on in the record business. Can I pick your brain for a minute? And I got people that I can call and I can say, hey, what's going on? And they'll explain to me how the process works so that I'm
no
more
corruption in the music.
Oh, is that the one?
Crazy.
That's the one industry.
Yeah,
that's clean.
They're a bunch of good dudes just trying to help everybody.
You want to talk about corruption? Talk about like someday have somebody on to talk about, because I'm not an expert on it, but I know people that are. The corruption that goes on in the journalism industry surrounding sports, as to what they report and how they report it, and how they will savage a certain major league ball player because he's pissing off people that are in power, not because he's doing a bad job. And they will have these sportscasters that will constantly dump on this guy during a game while they're calling a game, just to destroy his favorability among the fans.
It's the same as that shitbag Jimmy Kimmel or any of them. It's all the same.
Yeah.
They attack some GM or some dude for, I forget what baseball team. He was like caught on film saying they wouldn't send him out to greet fans and stuff because he's a Christ follower and all this. This just came out and he's going on and on and on about it. O'Keefe just posted that shit, and it was like, this is the agenda of the major league sports team, you know? All right. And, you know, since when do football players want to put rainbows on their fucking uniforms? Like, this is bullshit.
But when the 6 cops got killed in Dallas about 10 years ago, and a couple of the football players in Dallas wanted to have something on their socks or on their helmet to honor the 6 cops that got killed in that mass shooting, the Major League Football said, no, you can't do that. That's virtue signaling. That's politics. Yeah. But if it's a rainbow flag, that's okay. If it's Black Lives Matter, that's okay. They're always putting their finger on the scale. But that's corporate media, because corporate media,
that money.
Yeah, corporate media is in bed with the drug cartels in China, and that's just a fact. They don't even hide it; they admit it, and so everything flows from that. Everything flows from that.
People need to understand everything that you understand about your life and how it's structured is completely fake.
Yes, it's wrong.
And set up to pay people who aren't you. Yep. You are essentially a light bulb.
Yeah, but most people,
I know you can't say shit to people.
Not everyone wants to look behind the curtain, and you almost gotta just respect the people. You know, like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
right?
but when you pull back that curtain, they get pissed at you when you pull back the curtain.
Well, because they didn't ask to see it.
Yeah,
they didn't want to see it.
Yeah, but he didn't ask for you to look. Like, you got to be looking to see something.
Well, he's presenting it, but he's not forcing you to read the paper or listen.
You would think that, but you should see my Facebook page. How many people come on and like,
well, they can't.
How dare you talk about this? I'm like, well, you don't have to come here. Like,
a lot of angry people.
You're voluntarily on my page.
The real question is why are so many Americans so angry?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Why is everyone so upset?
I think the media has pulled us apart so much. And, when I was growing up, the news was the news, right? It wasn't entertainment. It wasn't political. It was, here's what the president said today.
Or was it? But there was only one message.
Right. But at least
you were all on the same page.
Right. Everybody was on Team America, right? Like, we all wanted America to succeed. And now everybody gets this specialized news. If you're a liberal, you're watching CNN. And if you're a conservative, you're watching Fox. And if you're a libertarian, you're watching OAN or one of those other fringe groups, Newsmax. But they're all covering the same story, but they're telling it from the opposite perspective. So none of us are getting the facts.
Well, they're giving half truth.
Yeah. But because they want you to come to a conclusion. So
which half do you want to believe?
That's it. You get, so that's what we're always talking about. Like, you get to sort of choose your own reality at this point.
So I often will write a story about like political corruption. I'll write about like the superintendent of Methuen being involved in some kind of political corruption. And then instantly, the minute I post that story on Facebook, we'll get, well, what do you have against her? Well, I have nothing against her. I'm writing a news story. She did this. This is what she did. I'm writing that that's what she did. Well, yeah, but you must be doing it because she fired one of your relatives. Like, everybody's always looking for the ulterior motive, because in their mind, they wouldn't be attacking someone unless it was personal.
That same bitch attacking you would be telling her mama about what her cousin did to her the other night. It's the same shit. They're just, people don't like what they are. And if you show someone what they are, whether they know it or not, that's painful. And there's a backlash for that. That's that's how the brain works.
Yeah.
But if your incentive isn't financial, so that's what makes an honest journalist, I guess. Because once you get, it becomes all about views and followers and money.
Yeah.
You're just gonna give people the information that you know your audience wants to hear, and you're gonna ignore everything
if you
else.
see Tom with his scanner out live on Facebook and a giant black SUV that's like got nice wheels on it and stuff,
then we know
he took the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, by the way, the police scanner, because I was doing so much with the police scanner, going to shootings, fires, that the corrupt cops in Lawrence went to the chief and went to the mayor at the time, Dan Rivera, and they encrypted the police scanner, so I couldn't go to shootings anymore. So
That makes no sense.
They didn't announce it. Now think about this: in the age of George Floyd, I keep pulling this up because I was louder when I started, and it is faded. I don't know if that's outward going. So, what are they saying? So they encrypted the police scanner because I was going to shootings and fires. And I was going live. I was live on Facebook. So I had a cell phone on my dash that would show people live that I'm pulling up to the scene. And then I'd take it and I'd go, take pictures of the cops putting the markers down and stuff. And the corrupt cops went to the chief and the mayor and complained that I was making them look bad and that I was making the politicians look bad. And the mayor, Dan Rivera, said to me one day, he said, every time you go live, 4, 5, and 7 start following you. And if you end up at a shooting where somebody dies, within 10 minutes, they show up with a news truck, and Lawrence is the top story in Boston. You're making the city look bad. So we're going to encrypt the police scanner. Now, keep in mind that
Let's not fix the problem.
Right. So, but keep in mind that this happened right after George Floyd. So at the same time that the Democrat Party, and I'm going to make it a little political, but at the same time that the media and the Democrat Party and the left wing of political thought in America is telling us that cops are gunning down black men for fun, that cops are out there abusing minorities just because they can, because they're white supremacists. At the same time they're telling us that, the city of Lawrence, which is controlled 100% by Democrats, the mayor, the city council, the school committee, all their state reps, all their state senators, both our congressmen, both our U.S. senators, the governor, and every executive office down are all Democrats, 100%, no exception. At the same time, that party is telling us that cops are out there abusing minorities for the fun of it. They're encrypting the police scanner so we can't see what the cops are doing in our community. So they're supposed to be working for us, and the people telling us they're being abusive.
Well, they're just giving you a story.
Well, so now you look at that and you have to wonder, are there cops? Because I've always been on the side of the cops. I grew up in a cop family. So now I start to wonder, are the cops out there doing this? And are they encrypting the scanner because I might stumble onto it? That I might be out there catching the cops doing something bad. Because it wasn't the criminals who complained to City Hall that Duggan's making us look bad. It wasn't the criminals who were getting locked up that went to court to try and stop me from doing what I'm doing. It was the cops that went to the politicians and said, Duggan's making us look bad and Duggan's making you look bad. You've got to stop him. And it was the police chief and the mayor who pushed through to the city council to spend extra money to encrypt. They spent like almost $500,000. The city.
Oh no, they didn't.
Yes, they did to change over their entire
community. But no, they didn't.
Right, it was more like $3 million, and it all went in the back.
Yeah,
right. But so they spent an inordinate amount of money to change the entire communication system for the Lawrence police, so that they could talk to each other and the public couldn't find out what they were doing.
That seems illegal. And for anyone that doesn't know, like having a police scanner used to be a normal thing before the turn of the century.
Yeah.
Like you'd find it in households all over the place.
I grew up with it. My parents, my grandparents used to listen to my dad go on calls when I was a kid.
That would be hectic as fuck for me.
Yeah.
I would be like, nah, no thanks.
Yep. And now Haverhill's done it. Lawrence has done it. Salem, Mass has now done it. And now there's a sweep across the country in all Democrat communities, no Republican communities. Again, I don't want to make it too political, but there is one party that's more responsible for this than another, and it's the Democrats. In almost every case, there's a case in Colorado too. I think it's Boulder where they've gone dark on their police scanner. It's all in these inner cities that are run by Democrats. And part of the other part of the reason for that is there's an additional benefit that none of us thought about, and that is they can get up at city council meetings now and say, like I remember when Willie Lantigua was mayor of Lawrence, he got up at a city council meeting and said shootings are down 30% in Lawrence. So I'm standing there with my camera, I'm live, I'm at a city council meeting, I'm just there to report. I generally don't inject myself into stories because that's not my job. But I put the camera down and got up at the microphone and said, we know that's not true. The mayor is lying. I'm out there every day with my scanner. I used to go to 2 or 3 shootings a week. Now I'm going to 8 or 9 shootings a week. It's very clear that shootings are not down 30%. And he was just furious. The mayor was furious. His friends on the city council were furious. And more furious than them was the fucking cops.
All of the cities across America are telling that same lie.
Yep.
It's
Which is
a lie.
weird that like the news will focus so heavily on your random school shooting
Right.
or mass shooting, but completely ignore the daily
Right.
the daily shit that
Right.
goes on. Like, what is that?
Well, that fits a narrative. The school shooting narrative allows them to promote their political narrative that guns are bad and we need more gun
Right,
restrictions.
right.
But when it's 15 members of a drug cartel in Lawrence or Haverhill or Lowell doing a drive-by shooting to a baby mama's house and putting 37 shots into a building where there are kids living, I'm literally the only one that reported that story. That wasn't on the front page of the Tribune the next day. That wasn't on the front page of the Globe. And 4, 5, and 7 never showed up for that shooting.
That's insane.
Right?
Just recently, the guy that was shooting up Starro Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up with that shit?
You know what the news completely neglected to report on?
The guy that took him out.
Yeah, there was a legally armed
Veteran.
civilian that was there and fired the first couple of shots, but they only talked about the state trooper
Right.
coming in, and that's so fucking weird because Massachusetts especially doesn't want people having
Right.
conceal and carry because God forbid they stop something like that.
Well, the legislature actually passed, and I think the courts have thrown it out now, but they actually passed, last year they passed a measure in the budget where they were calling it a property rights bill. And this is the other thing about politics, and hopefully we'll get into some of that later, but they always call something the opposite of what it is to get people to support it. So they called it like a property rights bill. But what the bill did was, if you were a private property owner, you could put a sign outside your house that says this is a gun-free building. And if someone had a weapon in that building, or was found to have a weapon in that building, it was a felony. So even if you conceal carry, so like I go to AMC Music Theater,
What is the
AMC
benefit of that, by the way?
Well, it's to criminalize people carrying
Yeah,
guns.
if you don't agree
It's to
with
criminalize, people who.
Oh, yeah. All right. Those are all
So
over the bars.
if my landlord wants to put a sign out that says this is a gun-free building, I can't have a gun in my own home to protect myself. But in order for it to be a gun-free building, you have to have a sign, which means you are now telegraphing to the fucking criminals who doesn't have a gun.
No, they won't pick on you. They won't go to that building. Come on.
And when you try to talk to these legislators who are all fucking useless, even my friends, they're all fucking useless. You and I'll name them too if you want me to. But when you talk to them, they'll tell you privately what they really think, that they're against all of these things. But they also will tell you, they will also say publicly, I support all of these things. And
that's a coward.
Yeah.
by
well,
the
that's
way.
a politician.
But here's
Same thing.
But here's the reason. So I'm not going to mention any, but I got 3 legislators that I work with on a regular basis. I do great work with me. But then when the issue comes up of like $2 billion for illegal aliens, you talk to them privately over a beer. They're 100% against that. They live in Lawrence. Lawrence is 300 homeless people sleeping in the streets that the state does shit for. And they say, now they want me to vote for this $2 billion package for people that just got here, when they're not spending any money to help the homeless in Lawrence. And privately, they tell you how disgusted they are by that. And the next day, they drive into Boston, they go to Beacon Hill, and they vote for it. And when you ask them why, they all will tell you the same story, but they will never say it publicly, so I'm going to tell your audience publicly. If you're a state representative, you get more money if you get put as chairman of a subcommittee. So they have subcommittees for everything, subcommittees for public safety, for welfare, for transportation, for every child services. They've got subcommittees for every topic you can imagine. And every committee has a chairman and a vice chairman who get paid. The people that get appointed to those positions are appointed by the speaker. The speaker is the guy who's the head of the Democrat Party. He's the head of the Democrat Party in the state. So your speaker, Mariano, appoints you the head of the Public Safety Committee, and you just doubled your salary because every committee chairman and vice chairman gets paid more money. They get a stipend. If you vote the way the party tells you to vote, if you vote the way the Speaker of the House tells you to vote, you could be the chairman of 5 committees. You could quadruple your salary. You could be making $500,000, $600,000 a year on a $95,000 a year salaried position if you just vote the way they tell you to vote. Because if you vote the way they tell you to vote, you get the committee chairmanships. And you get on a committee. Now, you get on a committee, you don't get paid more money. But if you're on a committee and the guy who's the chairman leaves, you got a good chance of being the next chairman. So everybody's standing in line for their fucking payday. And they will tell you this privately. They'll never say it publicly, and I'm friends with all these guys. So when it comes up to $2 billion for illegal aliens, when it comes to no cash bail, when it comes to letting criminals out who are nonviolent, by the way, drug dealers are considered nonviolent, which is why they call it nonviolent criminals. That's why that moniker gets used. They will all vote for it, even though privately they will tell you the transgender bathroom bill puts our children at risk. And publicly the next day they're voting yes. And they're voting yes because they're all on the take. Every fucking one of them, there is no exception.
Did you just discover that money corrupts everyone?
Well, no, but I discovered how. And when you finally find out the mechanism as to how it works, it becomes more disgusting.
I swear to God, you were just telling the Elizabeth Warren story.
Pretty much, right?
I don't understand why people have such a hard time accepting that this is just the reality. It's like a bunch of adults that refuse to believe that Santa Claus isn't real. I'm sorry, but everything is fucking corrupt.
I like to liken it to professional wrestling. When we were growing up, we all knew professional wrestling wasn't really real, but we all played along, right? We all pretended Hulk Hogan was gonna beat up the Undertaker. Like we all got into it as if it was real. But we all kind of subconsciously knew that it wasn't. And anybody who said, come on, wrestling is fake, what did we do? We fought them. Come on, what do you mean it's fake? Even though we all knew it was fake. And that's America today. That's the analogy of America today.
It's more than it's literal.
Analogy.
They were just
Perfect.
They were just programming the next generation to get fired up over politics the same exact way. Politics is wrestling.
Hey, and I don't know where you get this Frank guy, but he never shuts up.
Thank you for being on the show and telling it like it is, because if that's what's going on and you're out there and you're seeing it. I mean, you bring up a police scanner. I mean, you
put it this way: what benefit does he have to lie in this direction versus someone who's on the other side of the story?
Yeah, right.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and guess what? It's in your town too, whoever you are.
Oh, 100%. So I was in a documentary called Lawtown. It's on Vimeo. Vimeo is the platform that it's on. Yeah. Called Lawtown, and it deals with it's about a minute, about an hour and a half on the opioid crisis and how Lawrence is the hub of the opioid crisis. And I narrated. I was the narrator. So these guys from Hollywood came to Lawrence, and they followed me around with these huge fucking cameras that were like the size of my car, and we went to homeless encampments, and we followed the police scanners, and we went to shootings and fires. And the very last thing that I said as a narrator, and I didn't put it together, these guys put it together, but they interviewed me for hours and hours and hours. And the very last line of the documentary is, this Lawrence is just an example of what's going on everywhere. This isn't just Lawrence. This is you. This is your community. This is going on everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you might be living in a community like North Andover or Andover, where it's majority white, where you don't see the crime like you see in Lawrence, where you don't see the density and the drug dealing like you see in Lawrence. But that just means it's hidden. That just means it's there. This is you.
Those are intelligent people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're smart. They know how to keep it.
But the drug users in Andover on Ruggiero Way, which is a multi-million-dollar neighborhood in Andover, I used to drive for Andover Taxi, and I would pick people up on Ruggiero Way, and the guy would give me $100. When he got in the car, he'd give me $100 and say, bring me to Summer Street in Lawrence. You're going to wait outside, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to come out, and you're going to bring me back. And he'd go in, and he'd buy his drugs. And he'd get back in the car, and I'd bring him back to Ruggiero Way, and it was like a once-a-night thing. I would make $100 a night every night on that one guy who would go from Ruggiero Way in Andover over to Summer Street in Lawrence to buy his drugs and go back. So when you have money, you don't have to be doing it on the sidewalk in front of a housing project. You've got $1 million home that you can do it in, but you still got to go to Lawrence to get it.
Wow. Hey, let me ask you something. What the fuck was going on with Lawrence for like a decade? I'm from Metro West, Framingham area. For a decade, I would watch the news like a brainless zombie retard. And tonight, Lawrence is on fire again. Yeah. I mean, that motherfucker was on fire every night, dude. What is that about?
Yeah, a lot of people thought, so we have over 450 abandoned properties in the city of Lawrence. Now, to get an idea of what Lawrence is 6.5 square miles with a huge river running through the middle. So you've got about 3.9 miles of inhabitable land. If you remove like the parks and the rivers and the sidewalks and the parking lots, you've got about 3.9 miles of inhabitable land with 90,000 people crammed into it, right? And the property owners, there's about 450 pieces of property that are abandoned. The property owners realize that it's sitting there and costing me money, but if a homeless person were to like light it up on fire, we'd get the insurance money on it. And then we could take that money, hire a construction crew, and go in and build a brand new property. We could sell it and make money and be back on the tax rolls. And so for that period of time you were talking about, there was a lot of that going on.
Like what they did in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yep. And it didn't help.
Well, and Hawaii and Los Angeles. Yeah.
And it didn't help that the mayor was cutting the fire department. So
ironic.
Yeah. So Willie Lantigua was the mayor at the time. He announced that he was laying off 30 firefighters, and almost within a week. So a lot of people thought the firefighters were doing it because it happened at the same time. And it's an easy conclusion to draw, right? It's not.
You know who's not corrupt? Fucking firefighters. Yeah, right. You know, 100%. Like that's the last group to point fingers
100%. They've got their issues, but as far as corruption goes,
right, silly. Yeah. But it's ironic that seems to happen when the fires stop being lit. The fire department is relieved of staff and budget. That seems to be a thing going around. You know, different parts of Hawaii.
It was also at the same time that the homeless population in Lawrence was growing exponentially.
Same as LA.
Like for the previous, I'm going to say, if you go back 5 years, the last 5 years have been bad. If you go back the 10 years before that, so 15 years ago, you had an average of maybe 30 homeless people in the city of Lawrence on a regular basis. Like no matter, some would die, someone else would replace them, someone would come out, someone would go, someone would find a place to live. But that number always kind of seemed to be the same. And around the time you're talking about, that number started to grow because other communities started pushing them out. So Lowell would go bulldoze a homeless encampment, and they would just come to Lawrence. Waltham, Boston, the cops would be rounding them up. And our homeless coordinator in Lawrence actually got a video 2 years ago, of a Cambridge police cruiser pulling up to the Daybreak homeless shelter, letting 3 people out that they'd picked up in Cambridge. And they literally used a police cruiser to drive them to Lawrence to drop them off in Lawrence as far away as they possibly could.
That sounds like some Cambridge shit.
Yeah.
One of our roadies back in the day moved to Hawaii after the band was done, and he said that there were so many homeless people in his area because when the Olympics came to Atlanta, that mayor put them all on a one-way ticket to Hawaii.
Yep.
Dropped them all off in Hawaii.
Hey, if you're going to be homeless, that's the place to be homeless.
Yeah, they all had Southern accents. They all got dumped off, and that's a true story. Like, you can actually look that up. But they all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times have they tried to drop off like a bus full of like immigrants at a politician's house or whatever, and they're like, "Oh no, we don't do that here."
Well, it goes back to why there were so many Latinos in Lawrence, right? I don't know if we were on the air or off the air when I started telling the story about Ted Kennedy, but back like in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, Puerto Ricans started showing up in Hyannis in droves, like tens of thousands, just started showing up. And the Kennedys decided they didn't want them in the Cape, and they put them all on buses and sent them to Lawrence. And the Democrat politicians that were running Beacon Hill said, well, we'll give Lawrence millions of dollars to put veteran housing aside, because we had 4 housing projects in Lawrence, the Essex projects, the Hancock projects, the Beacon, and the Stadium. And so they were all veteran housing from World War I. They were actually built in World War I veteran housing. But in the 70s, the Democrats decided, the people running, the politicians decided that, if we could pay Lawrence millions of dollars to set aside 5% of their public housing for these Puerto Rican immigrants that are coming here, we can keep them out of the Cape. And of course, that 5% then became 10, which then became 20. And by the time it reached 25 or 30, the veterans just started fleeing because it was making those housing projects untenable to live in, because you're importing poor people from crime-ridden countries that are poor, don't speak the language, they're having a problem. And so the white flight in Lawrence started to happen. And that creates a vacuum for more immigrants to come. And then Dominicans started showing up. And so at one point in the late 70s, early 80s, Lawrence was majority white, but the biggest ethnic group was Puerto Rican at that time. And within about 5 years, the number of Puerto Ricans dwindled to almost nothing. And suddenly it was Dominicans. Suddenly Dominicans started coming here in very large numbers all at once, because let's face it, if I move to Germany and I find out that there's a neighborhood with a bunch of Americans who speak English that live there, why wouldn't I go there if I'm going to go live in Germany? That's the place to go. I don't blame the immigrants, but when you look at the way it was planned, when you look at the way the politicians of both parties decided to screw the people of Lawrence by making Lawrence the hub of the newly arriving immigrants all at once, all at the same time. There's no problem with immigrants moving to America, moving to a community, but when it happens all at once and there's a huge number of them, that's always going to create problems no matter what their skin color is, no matter what country they come from. That's always going to cause a problem. The politicians know it. And when that caused a problem, now what do? Now they give the city grants for community policing to handle the problem. And the local politicians love it because now we're getting an influx of money that we can do whatever we want. We can hire our friends, put our friends on the police department, put our friends in community development. We have a low-income housing program that we can use and put our friend in charge of it. So it became this big, huge, I call them poverty pimps. They're people who make so much money off the poor while never actually helping the poor.
Well, that is a big game in Los Angeles. I mean, they get a couple $100,000 a year to mismanage the homeless situation, and a couple billion will come in to fix the problem. They don't take one soul off the street, yet everybody makes a little bit more money every single year.
The corruption is so widespread and so deep in everything. How could it ever change? How could it ever not be this way? Literally, like, it seems like the entire foundation of this country has been built on fraud at this point. Like, the American dream now is how much money can you make through fraud?
Right.
Well, that is true, but more importantly, everybody needs to realize they're just a vessel to bring that money in and circulate it. That's all you are as an American at this point. It sucks to say, that's the truth. You're just an ant.
Right. So it's easier to not think about it.
Right.
True.
How do you keep your sanity?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I was raised in this environment, right? So I grew up in Lawrence. I grew up in a cop household. My mom was a nurse. She worked for a school. She was a school nurse. So I was just always raised in this. I came out of this. So
Right, so you're kind of neutral. You're just reporting on your This is your life,
Yeah,
basically.
like-
You're just sharing it. You're not trying to change it.
yeah, like
'cause
I
you
have
know
opinions that shooting people is bad, right? I think we all have opinions on things.
Right.
But when I have my camera and I'm out there, I'm just telling the story about what's going on. And if you like it, fine, share your opinion, write a letter to the editor. If you don't like it, same thing, write a letter to the editor.
But it's got to be frustrating, though,
Right.
to constantly be presenting this reality to people, and it changes nothing. Like,
Yeah, well, I say that all the time. So we had I had a great story that I did. A woman named Judy Brito. She was a dispatcher. So the Lawrence Fire Department has a dispatch center. So when you call 911, you ask for the fire department. You don't get the actual fire department. You get the dispatch center. It's in an old school on Bodwell Street in Lawrence. So there's woman Judy Brito and a firefighter that was injured. He was out injured, but he came back for light duty, so he was also working there. The police got a tip that they were not answering 911 calls, that people were calling, their calls were going unanswered. Now in Lawrence, that's the difference between life and death every day. Like if someone calls 911 and you're not answering, someone's going to die. I mean, there's no way around that. That's pretty serious shit. So police department put a undercover camera down there, and they caught the two dispatchers snorting coke off the console, drinking a case of beer over one shift, having sex on the console. And on video, you can see the 911 calls lighting up, and there's nobody answering them. So the girl that was involved came to my office and said, "You're not going to believe what else is going on, like some of the other things that I've seen, and I want to be a whistleblower," because she didn't want to go to jail. And again, for some reason, people think reporters are cops. I don't know why people come to me with this stuff, but I'm happy to tell you a story. So I interviewed her on tape for about 3.5 hours in my office, and she gave me names and times and days of cops and cruiser numbers and shifts and cartel names of people that they were buying the coke off of, where the money was going, the whole thing.
and
Holy shit.
Okay.
she's dead now.
No, she's not, but her 2 kids got killed recently in Florida.
Christ, I was kidding.
So this was back in 2009, 2010. So I took the audio of her interview and I transcribed the stuff that we could without getting sued for slander, because we're using names, right? Nobody's been convicted of anything. And basically told her story the best way that we can. And I took the rest of the tape and I drove down to Salem, Mass, to John Blodgett's office, the Essex County District Attorney, because she was literally giving us shift times and cops' names and cruiser numbers of coke that was being moved throughout the city and stuff that was going on, money that was being moved, money laundering that was happening in the nightclubs. And she gave us like everything. And I'm not a cop, And certainly I'm not going to go to the cops if that's who she's talking about. So I brought the audio down to John Blodgett's office, and I waited about 6 months, and I called the assistant district attorney that I'd spoken with, that I'd given the actual physical tape to, and their answer was, we're not prosecuting, we're not even investigating this. No fucking interest whatsoever. None. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, there was an investigation about tens of thousands of dollars missing out of the police relief in Lawrence. One cop committed suicide over it just about 3 or 4 months ago, who was under investigation for that. Now, all the other cops are pointing to the guy that's dead and going, well, he's the one that did everything because he can't defend himself.
Of course.
Now,
by the way, tens of thousands of dollars is a fucking joke in this game. Yeah. So don't go killing yourself over that.
Yeah, but if you're going to get caught doing something, those are the people that get caught. If you're stealing millions, no one ever gets caught.
Well,
because you're paying people off along the way.
Right. He didn't kill himself over the tens of thousands of dollars. He killed himself over he knew what he was a scapegoat. Yeah. He knew what was coming.
Yeah. And plus he was going to lose his pension and his name. He was very well known, very, very well liked. I went to school with him. He's a great guy. I think he just got caught up in things. And you've got, police departments, DPW, the corruption. I always say, if I won the lottery tomorrow and I won $50 million, and they were going to hand me a check for $50 million tomorrow, and I put it in my bank account, and I went out and I hired 40 full-time investigative journalists to just investigate fraud and corruption, I still couldn't get to every story that comes across my desk.
Well, because Seriously. You wouldn't have enough to pay them to do it because someone else would pay them more to fuck you off. That's but I mean, it's everywhere. It's your library board of trustees. Like, who would think the library board of trustees? I always use a librarian, right, so to speak, as someone that's part of government doing whatever the fuck they're doing. You know.
So do we just accept it? Right? It's just the way of the world. Everything.
My take on that, and I go back and forth because I'm very cynical about life in general now because of the job that I do. But I think if you're going to clean it up, the only way that's going to happen is if everybody kind of cleans up their own little area. Like if everybody says, not in my neighborhood, if everybody says, I'm going to my school board meeting and I'm going to put a stop to them reading smut to kids in 3rd grade. If everybody just kind of looks locally around their own neighborhood, in their own area, in their own catchment, in their own school district, and says, "Okay, I can't fix the rest of the world, but I could fix it here," I think that goes a long way toward helping the push back. But you're right; it's so prevalent. When we started the paper in 2004. Our very first story was because the local daily paper refused to cover a corruption story of a superintendent of schools literally stealing money from children, And I had given that story to the local Eagle Tribune because I used to write for a Spanish language paper and I wasn't there anymore. And somebody had given me all this info thinking I was still with the paper and I wasn't. So I went to the Eagle Tribune and I gave them this story about a superintendent in Lawrence who was there's a 7-member school board that oversees the school system and a superintendent, and 4 of the 7 members, that's a majority, who votes for his contracts and voted for his raises. He was taking them out for steak and lobster and dinner after every meeting and then putting it on the school department credit card that's supposed to be funding education. But because those 4 members are also on the finance committee and they sign the bills, those are the only 5 people that know what's going on. So one of the secretaries that saw that this was going on sent it to me, and I gave it to my friend Orion Johnson, who now works for the Herald. He was working over at the Eagle Tribune at the time, and I gave it to him and said, don't tell your bosses it came from me or they won't do the story. He shopped it to his bosses. His bosses had no fucking interest in the story at all. And the reason that they had no interest is because the Lawrence school superintendent was spending thousands of dollars in advertising in their Sunday paper to push their free school meals program.
Yeah. Now multiply that times 1 million, and that's why you have fathers on the TV telling you everything you need to know about your life. Yeah. Hey, all right. If you're saying all this, I just have to assume you're a flat Earth guy.
No,
this guy's a real worlder, man. He's in the shit.
Yeah, no, I'm not, and I understand why people doubt it, because every fucking thing we get told by the media and our government for the last 35 years has been a fucking lie. I totally get why.
You start to question everything.
Well, listen, for 20 years, we had people that we respect who run the Pentagon, who run the military, sit in front of Congress for 20 years. And every year said, just give us $3 trillion more. Taliban's on the run. We got them on the any minute now. We got them, and after 20 years of them doing that over and over and over and over, and Congress giving them trillions over and over and over and over, when we finally decided to pull out of Afghanistan, we weren't even out yet, and the Taliban was back in fucking charge. And when that happened, and then COVID happened, I was like, you know what? I don't fucking believe anything anymore. And I understand why people doubt flat Earth. Did we go to the moon? Joe Rogan recently is famous for saying, I used to believe in, everything, vaccines and everything. And now I'm not even sure if we went to the moon. Now, I think we probably did go to the moon, but I certainly understand people who question it because...
But people are so desperate for a savior type person,
Right.
so like they fall into the red versus blue thing, and they think that one side is going to be the heroes.
Yeah, it's not.
What?
I left the Republican Party for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons was after COVID, they were discussing the third round of COVID relief for us. They closed our businesses. They closed our neighborhoods. They told us we couldn't work. They bankrupted our entire country. It was the biggest redistribution of wealth in human history to the big Amazon corporations and Costco, right? And they're discussing the third round of $1,200 checks to us, the little people, the people that out fucking working. And Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell gets up and talks about fiscal responsibility. We're borrowing this money from China. We have to be more prudent with our money. We don't know how long this is going to last. And he voted no. The Republicans voted no, and the measure died. And in the next motherfucking second, they voted on a multi-trillion-dollar aid package for Jordan, Egypt, Brazil, Afghanistan, Syria, Sudan, South Africa, Guatemala, and I sat there because I just left the TV on in the office after the vote because I was wanting to write about the vote, and then they unanimously voted yes, except for Ron Paul. They unanimously voted yes. So it was too much money for us to pay the American people, the people who vote for you and pay your salary, the people whose businesses you shut down. But it's not too much to spend trillions of dollars that we have to borrow from China for Syria and Sudan and Brazil and Afghanistan and Lebanon and Jordan. Are you fucking kidding me? And that was the day I said I'll never be a Republican ever again.
It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat, though. You're just a slave in a system that doesn't give a fuck about you. And the quicker you realize it.
Yeah, it's just crazy how many people are still caught up in
They're caught up in it.
The football of it, the red versus blue football.
Well, because I'm slowly seeing it dissipate slowly.
But that's because one side is really bad, right? The Democrats are literally in bed with the cartels. They're literally in bed with China. They're literally in bed with every enemy America has right now. So the Republicans look better. But only by comparison, they still suck. Like, people need to understand the difference between good and better. They're better than the Democrats because standing next to them, you look awesome.
Yeah, people shouldn't be used to all of government being, well, I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils. Why is it always two fucking evils?
Right. Well, that's our system. We got to buy it.
Because our system's evil.
Yeah.
The lesser of two evil.
Right.
Get it?
Yeah. And yet still the best system out there, right?
Sure is. I mean, you're a very confusing man. You predicated everything saying I left the Republican Party, and then you just went on to say it was better than the Democratic Party. And
yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's fucked.
They suck, but they just suck less than the Democrats. It's like Fox News is fucking terrible, right? They're terrible. They get shit wrong all the time. If Donald Trump took a dump on the sidewalk tomorrow, Sean Hannity would come out. It's the greatest dump anybody's ever taken. The way the sun glistens off the dump that he took on the, but they're still 1,000 times better than CNN because Fox News has their own separate news division that doesn't mix with their opinion people like Sean Hannity and Tucker.
But they're considered more entertainment.
Well, yeah, and they're steered in the right direction. Right. You'll notice that when Tucker Carlson started going after Big Pharma, he went after everybody else on the planet and they left him alone. But the minute he went after Big Pharma, he was fired. He had the highest rated in the history of mankind, the highest rated TV show in the history of mankind. Well,
you can't go after your boss. Yeah, your boss is going to fire you if you go after your boss.
This is fucking gross, Tom. I wish you didn't bring it to my attention.
Sorry. I tend to ruin people's lives just by turning the light on.
That's why you get shot at, because you keep pulling back the curtain and nobody wants to see it.
Yep. But, the thing is, I have no interest in who's behind the curtain. Like, friend or foe, my job is to just report what's there. And a lot of times I'll write a story about a politician friend that I campaigned for. I ran for city council, mayor, whatever, but I've got to write the story that did something stupid, and they'll call me and go, I thought we were friends. Well, we are friends, but you did something stupid. I got to write about it. The next time I praise you for doing something good, no one's going to say, you're only praising him because he's your friend, because you can point to that story that I just wrote about you that was negative. I have more credibility if I'm kicking the shit out of you when you're wrong, because there's going to come a day when you're being wrongly accused of something, and I'm going to be the guy defending you, but people will have faith in the fact that I'm defending you because you're right, not I'm defending you because you're my friend.
Right. But that's why your position is so dangerous, because you're not spending most of your time exposing good things.
Right. And I can't be bought. That's the other thing that,
And you can't be bought.
That puts me in danger, because I've been offered a lot.
If somebody wants you to write them up in a good light, then they got to actually do something good.
I had a multi-million-dollar company, the owner of a multi-million-dollar company that we all know is a national brand out of Israel. The owner approached me. The owner.
Then the initials are
Right. And the owner offered me a substantial amount of money to do his company's PR if I would just simply stop reporting about on a certain topic. Like, all you got to do is just stop reporting on that certain topic that I did like a 4 or 5 part series on a certain topic. And he was like, yeah, if you just stop there, like this could be lucrative for you.
If you just sign this piece of paper in your blood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and your eternal soul.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
but what do I need money for? I don't like to travel, right? I'm kind of disabled a little bit. I have a hard time walking. I don't travel. I don't have an expensive car. My kids are out of college. I don't have a mortgage.
yeah, you're doing what you love to do.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
people ask me what am I going to do when I retire, and I'm like, I feel like I've been retired for 15 years.
Yeah.
Because I make my own schedule. My paper publishes once a month. It's the Valley Patriot. And we put the PDF online. We get as many downloads online. We print 22,000 papers. We get about 30,000 downloads online. And we publish 20,000 papers. We put them out physically in the community. And then I get between an average of like 30 and 40,000 hits on a good story that I'll post about, anything corruption, a shooting today, a fire, or whatever. And I get up when I feel like it. I go to bed when I feel like it. The only thing that other people control in my life is my printer says I have to be on the printing press at 5 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. And as long as it's there, the paper goes to print on time, the advertisers are happy, and everything else is gravy. And if I want to take a week off, listen, I was in the hospital for 3 months. Nobody noticed. So I died twice. They paddled me twice. I came back twice. I was in a coma for 11 days. I was in ICU for 15 more after that on an intubator. And when they finally put me in a regular room, I'd been in the hospital for about 32 days total, only a few of them that I remember. And people hadn't even really noticed, because I work when I feel like it. I don't work when I don't want to work. And so people are used to long periods of time of me not working on stories or not publishing stories because I'm investigating them. And when I'm going to investigate, especially a corruption story, a political corruption story, well, I wrote a story about $9 million being stolen out of Salisbury. I did a series of maybe 12 or 13 stories on that, because you can't tell a story like that in one story. It took me 4 years to research that story. That story sat on my desk for 4 years. Copies of land court decisions and Supreme Court decisions and all kinds of stuff that was going on with their water treatment plant in Salisbury. And for 4 years, I just get 3 a.m, pick up a land court decision, read through it, make some notes, put it aside, try to digest it. And right around the 4-year mark of investigating that story, it was like 3 a.m, and I'm reading through a land court decision. It was an appeals court decision. Tell me if I'm boring you. And all of a sudden it clicked. Like I got what was going on, like a light bulb went off in my head and I went, oh my God, the town fathers in Salisbury literally stole $9 million off the ratepayers, the sewer ratepayers, and there's no fucking accounting for it. So basically, here's what happened. I know you're probably short on time.
No, well, we can end
That's
after
what you just,
this, but
we just make
like
this one long episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So these 2 old ladies came to me, the Tomaselli sisters, and they tell me this problem that they're having, that they bought a piece of property, they opened up a restaurant, and they got hit with a $15,000 sewer betterment. Now, a betterment is if the town has to build a water treatment plant, they charge the ratepayers that are on that sewer line. So if you're not on a sewer line, you have a well, you don't get a bill. But if you're on the sewer line, you get a bill. It's called a betterment, and it's basically a one-time charge to pay for infrastructure that they built. So she says, we get this $15,000 sewer betterment, but when we bought the property a year ago, our lawyer did a deed search and there was no liens on this property. So we don't know who owes this money, but it's not us. Well, they did some investigating. They took the town to court and they dumped off this pile of paper like this. And that's what I was going through for 4 years. So I finally called them up and I said, I get what they did. I get what they did. And here's how diabolical and complicated this was. The town fathers were told by the EPA, you can't be dumping sewer into Salisbury Beach into the ocean anymore. You have to build a water treatment plant. But because we're telling you have to build a water treatment plant, we're going to reimburse you for 90% of your expenses. So the town floats a bond, they hire a construction company, the construction company comes out and they build it, they spend the money, the EPA is going to reimburse the town 90%. The other 10% gets charged to the ratepayers. What they didn't, the Board of Selectmen and the town manager didn't tell people was, because it was mandated by the federal government, the state EPA reimbursed the city of Salisbury for the other 10%. But the Board of Selectmen didn't tell the ratepayers and charged them anyway.
Nice.
And they never registered it with the Registry of Deeds. So if you bought a home, you didn't know that this sewer betterment existed because there's no lien on any properties because they never registered it with the Registry of Deeds. So now these two ladies buy a piece of property. They get a $15,000 bill that the previous owner already paid. And now the town wants them to pay it too. So they say, no, we're not paying this. They go to court and they lose because the town lies in court about the date of the construction. And because in Massachusetts, there's no law against attorneys lying in court, they get away with it.
What?
Right. Yeah.
What?
So they went in and they said the construction was 1991 when it was 1981. They lied about the date. And because they lied about the date, these women lost their case because the dates of the checks and the bills that they got make it look like they're the ones that had to pay the sewer betterment. So they lose. They lose their property. They lose their house. They lose their business. They come to me with this story. It took me 4 years of reading through all these fucking it was crazy, crazy stuff to find out that, yeah. So it was an $81 million project. There's $9 million that this town was reimbursed by the state, the extra 10% reimbursed by the state, even though they had charged the ratepayers that $9 million. And then anybody that bought a new piece of property, they were billing them too. Now, at the end of the year, I pull up the Salisbury town budget, and it's balanced to zero. But there's nowhere did they show that they spent that $9 million, so where did it go? We still don't have an answer to that question.
Dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I said, our first grown up on the pod.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? It's a different vibe when you get somebody that's on the front lines. You know, you're like a real veteran of life versus us assholes just talking about what we think is going on.
I could do that too.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Night Crawler.
Right.